Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to my talk, Terraforming Your Platform Engineering Organization. First of all, let's start introducing myself. Hello, my name is Bram Vogelaar. This is my 7th year presenting, so I'm happy to be there wherever you are in the world. I started my professional life as a molecular biologist and then slowly made my way to the dark side, first becoming a bioinformatician, and now I've been doing mostly operations, SRE, platform engineering work for the last 15 years or so. And I'm a massive fan of Hashi. As you see, I'm also a hug organizer. I'm currently a community ambassador and a Nomad Core contributor. But today we're going to discuss some of the other amazing tools that the lovely people at HashiCorp have created for us. Let's first set the scene. Let's welcome Bob to our node team at our little company. He's an engineer, and he should be doing engineering stuff. Most of all, he's going to help us out build our new platform, and that means Bob will need to have access to a couple of things that for him to be productive. And I'm sure everybody has seen one of these emails come in, at least I have, when you've been around in the IT operations world for a while. Hello, we got Bob. Bob needs access to things, email, HR systems, GitHub org, of course. Apologies for that. Our GitHub org, our CI/CD tooling. He needs access to our secrets that we store in HashiCorp Vault. He'll needs to have, if he writes codes, he needs to be able to deploy it. So he also needs to have access to nodes. He needs to have access to databases. So there's a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, the way traditionally this worked, or most places I worked, this would be a lot of manual steps. There would be run books, there would be checklists, multiple teams, right? HR systems is something HR will do. Email may or may not be the platform team. So there's a lot of teams involved, there's a lot of steps. So it's going to take quite a while for all of this stuff to happen. So right, in the past we've seen a lot of stuff, not necessarily stuff, right? We've seen a lot of flinging it over the wall. Not here in this picture it depicts dev and ops, but it's also HR, it's general IT services like email, like last HR system. That's a much deeper system that us engineers on the floor use. In bigger companies, it'll be separated, but in smaller companies, all the same teams. And a lot of these services, why it's so many different steps and why it's so many different teams and manual operations is because most of the time, none of this is, you have one identity in this whole platform, which you can log into everything TM that you need. So in this conversation, we're gonna have a little discussion about what the basics are that an engineer, a developer, or even an operations engineer should have access to. Right? We write a product, and the product needs to end up in front of users or clients, or someone that's willing to pay for our upkeep. So we're gonna build out the system that we need, a bare minimum that we need. Right, and we need a single source of truth, this single source of identity. And today I'm gonna build it up around GitHub. GitHub is a very nice SaaS platform that provides not only Git repositories, that's how they started, but they've grown a whole ecosystem around it. And we're gonna see how far this ecosystem can be used for us. We're gonna use today 3 parts of the services and tools that GitHub provides. It's the actual IAM, so I can have my users, can I have my groups, because different groups, say dev, say operations, or DevRel, right? They'll have they'll need to see they'll need to have a view on most of the same things, but they might have different read-write permissions. So we're going to use, well, obviously the Git repos, and we're going to use their CI/CD. Let's see if we can, mix and match these things, and we can hook everything up so that you have one identity. In our case, your GitHub login, which in my case has been a member of a couple of my customers, or even employers. So I'll keep taking this GitHub identity with me through all these phases, right? So instead of saying it's a single source of truth, that, as I mentioned, we're looking for this single source identity. So my identity, my GitHub handle, attachment genie, which also is my handle in pretty much any anything on the internet. I am the attachment genie, and same as GitHub. So my GitHub handle, attachment genie, will need to be given to access to Git repos of this new company, or in our case today, Bob. We're onboarding Bob. So Bob needs access to the Git repos. Right, Git repos don't mean much if we can't get it onto infrastructure. So Bob also needs to have infrastructure permissions, whether or not it needs to be full root or sudo. Bob at least needs to be able to go into server and say, okay, my code was deployed correctly, or what I think should have been deployed was correctly by CI/CD. So Bob also needs access to CI/CD. And CI/CD needs to have access to infra, and to this actual repo, which probably isn't a public repo. So we need to have some sense of secrets, right? We need database connections. We need these node connections. So that's what we're going to build up to. But is it though? Is it this single sort of identity? Right? Do we have SSO everywhere? The answer is probably not, because not all tools, although we would wish it, not all tools have the single sign-on availability. So what we're going to show is going to be see for these four things, right? Secrets, PCS, CI/CD, and nodes. That's what an engineer most of the day should have. That's the SSO that we're looking for. Should we do LDAP syncs? Probably not, but we can probably get away with a very flat RBAC system. That's what we're going to model today. And should these secrets be syncing, right? Because yes, we have a database connection in Vault, or as one of these just-in-time setups that you probably should be using for your databases, right? And if only, right, this single source of identity doesn't always work. CI/CD, especially CI/CD, is well known for not being able to pull in secrets. So you actually need to go in and update these secrets. Things like GitHub Actions that we're going to see today, but also others like Jenkins. There's only the way they deal with secrets is write only. So you write the secret out to the system, in our case GitHub Actions, and you'll never be able to see what the value is. So especially in more established or mature project I've seen before, people actually didn't know what the value of a secret was anymore, because someone long gone put it in Jenkins or put it in GitHub Actions, and it wasn't somewhere else in Vault. Or there was a value in Vault, but people weren't actually trusting the value in Vault to be the same as the one in their CI/CD system. So they were doing crazy stuff in building new CI/CD, things that should have been a script or second day operations. They turned it into GitHub Action because that's the only version of the secret they were trusting. And also CI/CD, that's usually the most powerful user there is. They need access to everything, all the infrastructure, right? We write our code, we deploy it out, or in our case, we're going to have Terraform. So Terraform needs credentials to basically configure everything. So I alluded a little bit what we're going to do today, right? Already, luckily for Bob, we're wearing the right t-shirt already, right? We're going to not necessarily write a small shell script today, but we're going to write Terraform code. We're going to Terraform all the things so we can model out the entire infrastructure, or the teams, the groups, the repos. We're going to model everything out so that not, if and when I, the bastard operator from hell, ever leave the company, then other people will be able to go in, read my code, and say, okay, this is how the company was modeled, or the engineering department was modeled, and all the bits that they require is not manually configured, because that's something I see a lot as well, right? We have a new company. Okay, we need a code somewhere. We go GitHub, we do click, 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 and we have we modeled an RBAC system before any of the other tools. So it's logical that GitHub is one of the first things you set up. So there's also something you configured manually. But what we'll show today is that you can go back, or even start from the beginning, to model this in Terraform, which is actually very powerful. So you'll not end up with situations where like, oh, sorry, I forgot to add you to this particular repo, or a team didn't get added, or they did added with the incorrect role, so you can't do certain things. So we're going to model it in Terraform so we can actually apply, the rules that we actually want to every repo in a very consistent way, and even your ISO auditor is gonna thank you, because it's very easy to describe what's going on if it's in code. I said we're gonna model everything, of course. Unfortunately, I lied a little bit. Setting up your organization is still a manual step, so that's the only manual step you're gonna see in the rest of the presentation so far. So keep that in mind. Create that org, and everything after that you can actually start terraforming. Right, let's invite Bob to our GitHub repo. Instead of clicking, you can actually just write this simple Terraform code. Right, you need the the bit above is fairly standard Terraform versions.tf setup. Right, we need one provider. It's the integrations / GitHub one, which is seen quite a bit of development, and it's a 4-line bit of code. A resource of type GitHub_membership, and we're gonna invite the user Bob1, because that's the GitHub handle that Bob's been using since forever. You'll see Bob here as a member. So we're not going to give him any crazy permissions from the start. So the default is member, and then we should be good to go, right? But as a member, you can't do much as such. So right, we're going to actually model out this infrastructure. So give Bob and all the other teams a little bit more permission, so they can write things, right? So we'll also have we're going to model the organization, and in this case I'm going to use a not the GitHub resource directly. I'm going to use an upstream module which wraps all of this quite nicely. So we'll only need to have we'll set 3 parameters in upfront, right? We're going to create an all members team, so called everyone. Sorry, I'm not very good at naming things, and this the visibility is closed, so when people go and visit our organization on GitHub, they can't see actually any teams, which is perhaps a little bit of security through obscurity, but it's going to help us, I think. And I'm going to make myself admin, and we're going to stick Bob in the development team. Right, for which we use another module for the same nice people. And again, not very imaginative. We're going to have a dev team. It's also closed, and we're going to stick Bob in as a member. Because I'm an admin, I'm actually a member. I'll have any permissions anyway for this team. So I'm not necessarily a member, but I can, I am root. So we have a team, we have an org, we have a team, we have a member in the team. We invited Bob, and as soon as Bob accepts the invitation through email, he needs to have somewhere to write his work out to. So in this case, we're gonna create a repository again, upstream module, but it's gonna what this module basically does, it decorates a resource called GitHub_repository, and it's going to give us quite a bit of leeway to configure this exactly like we want, right? Our name, again, unimaginative, but I'm on a repo. The visibility, public, probably should have been closed. Let's fix that soon. So, and then we're going to decorate the project. It has issues, it has projects. Sorry, turned off. It has not projects because we got Jira to do that for us. We'll accept to use the wiki, and then we'll have some merge strategies we cannot download. Add a little Terraform git ignore template. We'll stick a license on it. And even you can add topics so people can look and find this. And then by then we add all our teams basically as admins, because why not? Well, we'll do a bit of YOLO, but you probably should have a bit more fine-grained permissions here. And then you can even set your favorite branch protections, so that people don't commit directly to main, or they're allowed to. Right. So now we have our repo. Bob has access to the repo, but that you can't do much. So let's introduce in our case HTTP Vault. It's a SaaS version of the HashiCorp product Vault. So it's gonna store secrets or things you don't want known around the world, but people need to have access to. Luckily, we can actually you can authenticate to Vault with your GitHub organization. So we'll only need to have one credential, and it's actually fairly simple to set up. Decorate your version.df with a little bit of an extra blob, the Vault resource, and then we can actually model an authentication backend to Vault of type resource Vault_GitHub_auth_backend, and then we'll add our only people that are member of my HashiTalks organization are allowed to log in, and then we'll set a certain team. So the everyone team is allowed to log in to this backend, and has a default. There's two default policies, one for developer, and one is the read-only. Whether or not everyone should have developer is something you can debate, but in this case, it will show you a little bit more secrets. Right, whereas people like the owners, the founders will only get the read-only. They not necessarily need to log into this. Need to see all these extra additional secrets. They just need to. How do we then connect Vault to GitHub Actions? There's a simple way of doing it, and it's actually there is a plugin. There's actually a step you can use. So HashiCorp/Vault action provided by HashiCorp itself. But you'll see in the middle actually what the crux is. Everyone that wants to use Vault secrets from Vault in their pipelines, they need to add this extra step, which is a lot of pain to keep updated. Or all things like Dependabot will be able to help you, but it's a lot easier. What you can do is you can actually ask Vault Enterprise to sync these secrets for you. So if even if you have an auto-rotating secret in Vault, you can actually sync it out directly to GitHub. So now Vault is your single source of truth without having the fear of a secret in Vault doesn't become the single source of truth unless we're using it, and GitHub is actually where we're using it. So we'll be able to sync it out directly to GitHub. In this case, we have HashiCorp's mount, and it has one secret, and then we can actually, you need to set up a secrets destination with a little bit of permissions, and we'll write it out into this the repo that we've created with a certain name, so we can always, and highly suggest we do this. So every secret in GitHub Actions that has a Vault underscore prefix is something that we sync out of Vault. So in that case, we can always find out which ones we're supposed to be syncing, and then you can do the admin on both sides to see if the same number of secrets are actually there. And then we set an association, a sync association, that's saying that my secret needs to be synced to that location. You can actually add, then we need to have it from GitHub or from your laptop. You need to have access to Boundary. Well, Boundary is the amazing tool from HashiCorp that actually sort of abstracts away things like, the web server. Don't know what the address again was. There's an Excel sheet somewhere. No, Boundary will actually abstract all of that away. So you'll have certain teams will have only access to the nodes that they need, and we can actually also have Vault be the OICD single sign-on for Boundary, and then because Vault is already being used as GitHub, so it's sort of a chain, so we can actually make it work, which is pretty cool. Oh, wrong way. So the DevX is actually terrible though, right? We'll have, we've seen all the codes, and there's like arrays and hashes everywhere. Of course, they can be abstracted into local files, right? But not everybody is happy writing out these secrets. There's two groups of people that hate this. Me being a bit sloppy, so I'll always forget something. And the other people, like HR, if we could make this an HR problem, then we don't have to do team tag. But not everybody's actually very comfortable going into code, air quotes, to fix these things. And so, of course, everybody just first, you can Terraform you can read from a YAML file, because everybody's a YAML programmer now. So I see that's somewhat a lower barrier. And then your code changes a little bit. So you'll only need, you tell people there's YAML files, you change the YAML file, or you add a line, and then all will be well. That's the first thing you do. But the developer experience is still terrible, because this is, this is not an uncommon Git log history in my case, right? We first had to try Bob. In this case, in this particular example, we didn't need trailing commas, but this is more about the locals, right? Well, if we add a line to the array, we've got to add the comma, and then of course YAML will be validated. Well, locals we validated, and of course that didn't work. So instead of adding Bob in one go, Bob is now added in 3 steps. Some of the Terraform may or may not have applied completely. It's a mess. So there, the lovely people at HashiCorp have introduced HTTP waypoint, which is can act as an internal development platform. You do need to have Terraform Cloud. You need to have Terraform Plus package. So it may not be for everybody, but I'm gonna show some of the examples. Right? We'll go to your HTTP Cloud account. You will select Waypoint, and we'll start a project. Right? You need to since Terraform Cloud and HTTP Cloud are still moderately different things, you need to go in one and create a secret on the other side. And then what you do is you create, you should have made Terraform modules already. right? We abstract some of the units of work into a module, and these modules we can actually present to Terraform Cloud in a specific way. We can actually tell it to do a no-code provision, which abstracts away this terrible developer experience, and it now becomes a system that you can give to your HR people. Look, it's a website, you click, you can almost make no mistakes, right? Because we control the module, we control the variables that these people are allowed to set. Right, so we add a new application. In this case, because I couldn't add some other stuff in that I couldn't screenshot, so I'm using actually the standard templates, like the HashiCorp example that you can also find on their website if you want to start. So let's have a static website template, right? It's something you can click. You'll go next. You give it a name. In this case, if you model this out to be a user, you'll say Bob. We'll add user Bob. In this case, the website, right? And then you can actually, click next. You see people are starting to apply. Well, not people. Terraform Cloud is actually starting to apply this Terraform code in the background, and everybody will be given, even on the waypoint side, you'll be given feedback of whether or not this was successful. And then you can also go into Terraform Cloud and actually see the Terraform Cloud runs. So you can debug it in case something goes wrong. So hopefully that somewhat brings it to the end of the presentation. So hopefully I've shown you that by adding Terraform, Vault, Waypoint to a GitHub organization, you now have a single source of truth, or a single source of identity, when I spell it right. And we, by adding especially this very powerful waypoint, you'll see that it's adding a user is now, even though everything is modeled in the background as Terraform, so we can actually look at it, is now a really low barriers self-service product you can provide to the entire organization, without, as operations people, without the fear of someone misappropriating it or being unable to use it. And that's really the end of my talk. Thank you for listening. If you wanna, yell at me, use Attachment Genie. As I said, I'm everywhere on the internet. And if you wanna review this talk will be available on SlideShare as well. Thank you very much.